Someone told you something about yourself a long time ago. Maybe it was a parent, a teacher, or a situation that had happened to you. So even though no one said a single word to you, the lesson taught you everything. And somewhere along the way, you believed it. Beliefs like, if I'm not useful, I'm not enough. Don't be a bother to others, otherwise I'm a burden. Crying or being emotional means I'm weak. Rest means I'm being lazy, and lazy is not in my vocabulary. You stopped questioning beliefs like these. You built your life around them, and eventually you became them. But here's what I want to ask you today. Were these beliefs ever true, or were they simply handed to you? Last time we spoke, I shared an open letter to all the strong women who are tired of carrying the emotional weight of being the strong one alone. And I shared with you sort of this pivotal moment of my life that when I was 12, I was told by my parents repeatedly that I'm already an adult. And as a child who heard that over and over again, eventually I believed it. I learned that I had to be strong for myself, not because I wanted to, but because I didn't know I had other choices. And after that conversation, a question started to ruminate in my mind. Where did these beliefs actually come from? Did we ever actually choose these beliefs? Because here's what I've come to realize. Most of us are walking around running on a belief system that was built before we were old enough to know we had a say in it. Beliefs that were handed down, absorbed, hardened by our lived experiences, and never once questioned. So today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We are going to question them. Welcome to 1-800 Gold Digger, a space for honest conversations where I share the ugly truth that lives underneath all the glamour and celebration of success and growth. Let's get into today's episode. I want to take you back to my childhood for a moment. Growing up, emotions were not something we talked about openly. I remember sitting in front of my dad while he lectured me, and I would cry. The way a child cries when something lands hard and the body can't hold it anymore. Instead of being comforted, I would hear, "Why are you crying? Why do you always cry?" As if the tears themselves were the problems, as if feeling something was a character flaw. It didn't stop there. When I laughed, really laughed, out loud because something was genuinely funny, my mom would say, "Don't laugh so loud, that's not ladylike." Too much when I was sad, too much when I was happy. And my dad used to say, "Why are you trying to be different?" This one has stayed with me for the longest time. He didn't say this as a compliment. I wanted to make sure that's clear. He meant this as a correction. The way he said it was as if being myself was a bad idea. He wanted me to just be like everyone else. The message from him was obvious. Be the same. Don't stand out. Don't be too much. Don't be too visible. So what did I learn from all of this? I learned that being fully seen was not safe. That the full version of who I was, the happy little girl who laughed loudly, the sad little girl with tears down her cheeks because her feelings were hurt, the genuine little girl with desire to just be herself, but being labeled as trying to be different. These were too much for the room, too much for my parents. So I carried that belief into my adult life. I became very good at showing people the version of me that was acceptable, composed, capable, collected. What I didn't realize until much later is that performing a version of myself is exhausting. And what's even worse is that even after years of performing an acceptable version of myself, I forgot who I really was. Now, not everything from my childhood was a wound. Some of it was extraordinary. My mother is an accountant, and she is exceptional at what she does. She is, as some people would say, a workaholic. As a child, seeing her bring work home and continue to work after having dinner was a regular thing. In fact, both my parents worked really hard, not just my mom. And my grandma, my mom's mom, she was something else entirely. My grandma had a dumpling shop. Every day she was up before dawn, making dumplings by hand, preparing enough inventory to sell for the day. No complaining, just working. She was resilient and resourceful. My grandpa passed when my mom was in her teens, and my mom has 4 siblings, so my grandma raised 5 children all on her own. This wasn't just discipline, this was survival. There was a Chinese saying my grandma used to say to me: if you live by the mountain, you eat from the mountain. If you live by the water, you eat from the water. This means to adapt to your environment, making the best use of available resources around you. The dumpling shop was all she had, and she held it tightly with her work ethic until she passed. Watching them, a belief has quietly set roots. Wealth is not a hand-me-down. It is built. It is built through real work, through showing up when it's hard. I'm grateful for that. I carry it with pride. But here's another belief that's been quietly planted without anyone intending it. Rest is not for people like us. People like us work. People like us push. People like us don't slow down because slowing down means falling behind. And falling behind is not an option. I don't think I even realized this consciously, but somewhere beneath my drive, beneath my ambition, beneath the version of me that's always moving toward the next thing, this belief was running, like a shadow that won't go away. And it wasn't until much later that I had to ask myself, am I working because I love it, or because I was taught that stopping means I'm not enough? Maybe for you it's not work. Maybe it's something else. But I want to invite you to sit with that question for a moment, because the answer might surprise you. When people talk about personal transformation, there's often this idea of a single turning point, one moment where everything shifted, like the divine miracle where Moses parted the Red Sea and suddenly you opened your third eye and know who you were. That's not what happened to me. For me, it was an accumulation, a slow series of disruptions, each one asking something of me I didn't know I had. Until eventually I realized I was still here, and that meant something. I've moved across countries. I've lost someone I loved. I've burned out. I've walked away from an identity I spent years building and started over. Without a map, none of it was clean. None of it was linear. But somewhere inside all of it, something in me kept going, kept showing up, kept choosing to stay. And little by little, that resilience started asking a deeper question. Not just how do I survive this, but who is this person that keeps getting back up? And do I actually know her? That was the beginning of me turning inward. Not a dramatic awakening, but a slow, earned curiosity about myself. Because I realized that nobody was going to know me the way I needed to be known until I did it first. Nobody was going to love the parts of me I hadn't yet looked at. That was my work, and only I could do it. So I started this podcast, not because I had something to prove, but because I knew I needed to push myself, to get uncomfortable, to start talking, to learn how to put what was happening inside me into actual words. It was a practice before it was anything else. And through that practice, something became clear that I had been circling for years. Before you can build anything real on the outside, you need a solid foundation on the inside. Not confidence as performance, not success as a costume, but a genuine relationship with yourself, one you've actually shown up for. Life kept pushing me toward that relationship. Not in one moment, but through every move, every loss, every reinvention, until loving myself wasn't just an idea I had. It was something I had decided to do. Here's where it gets interesting, and I want you to stay with me because what I'm about to share is a little counterintuitive. We live in a world that has been teaching women for a very long time that confidence is something you build on the outside. Think about it. The beauty industry sells you confidence in a serum, a shade of lipstick, a skincare routine, or a new anti aging technology that promises to make you attractive, youthful, flawless. Lose the weight, and you'll finally feel good in your body. Buy that outfit, and you'll walk into the room projecting confidence. Fix the outside, and the feeling will follow. I'm sure we've all heard of that old adage fake it till you make it. And then there's social media, an entire architecture built on external validation. You share a piece of yourself, and then you watch the numbers. You start to measure your worth in likes, in followers, in whether the algorithm decided you were worth showing to the world that day. Even in a workplace, the advice women receive is almost always outward facing. Speak up more, take up more space, project more authority, dress the part. The prescription is always about adjusting the performance, rarely about understanding what's underneath it. And so we chase. We collect the achievements, the praise, the milestones, the external evidence that we are, in fact, enough. We keep looking outward for something that will finally make us feel settled. I did that too, for years. And here's what I've discovered through everything I've shared with you today. The less I looked outward for validation, the more I found something solid inside. The more I got to know myself, really know myself, not the performance of myself, the less I needed anyone else to confirm that I was okay. The more I understood my own values, my own voice, my own story, the more at ease I became in my own skin. It is, I know, a kind of oxymoron. The path to confidence is not more achievement. It is turning inward instead of outward. It is asking, who am I? Before asking, how do I become more? I'm still in that process. I want to be honest with you. I still catch myself looking for external validation sometimes. It doesn't disappear overnight. It is a practice, a daily reminder to come back to myself. But the difference between where I am now and where I was 10 years ago is this. I know who I am, maybe not 100%. Self-discovery is a journey that never fully ends, but I'm committed to it. I'm committed to know myself and build a stable foundation with myself that I can stand on time after time. No one can take this from you. No job loss, no relationship ending, no failure, no criticism can take you knowing yourself from you because it is not built on what other people think. It is built on what you know. Let me ask you something. How much of your energy right now is pointed outward? How much of what you're chasing, the confidence, the success, the version of yourself you're trying to become, is being built on external foundations, on other people's approval, on matrix and milestones that someone else defined? And how much of your energy is pointed inward? How well do you actually know yourself? Not the version of you that shows up at work, not the version of you that performs for your family, not the version of you that exists in other people's opinions, but you, the one underneath all of that, the one who has been there since before anyone told you who to be. Because here's what I've come to believe. Most women spend enormous amounts of time and energy trying to become more confident, trying to become more successful, trying to become better, stronger, more worthy versions of themselves. But very few stop to ask, who am I actually? What do I actually believe? What's this foundation I'm building all of this on? And if you don't know the answer to that, if the foundation is someone else's voice, someone else's values, someone else's definition of what a good woman looks like, then everything you build on top of it will always feel a little unstable. Because it is. Self-knowledge is not a luxury. It is not something you get to after you've achieved enough. It's the beginning. It's the foundation. It's the thing that makes everything else sustainable. I'm not going to tell you what to do with any of this because that's exactly the point. I'm not the author of your life. You are. And part of what this episode is about is trusting yourself to arrive at your own conclusions in your own time. It's your journey after all. But I do want to leave you with some questions, not a checklist, not instructions, just questions, just some things to ponder and think about on your own time. Growing up, what were you taught about who you were allowed to be? Not what you were taught about success or manners or how to be a good student or a good daughter, but about who you, the full, real, unedited version of you, were allowed to be in the world. What parts of yourself did you learn to hide and why? Was it your emotions, your ambition, your laugh, your opinions, your desire to be different? What got silenced and by whom? And what did you tell yourself about that? What have you been performing? And for whose benefit? The composed version, the capable version, the version that never needs anything. Who is she performing for? And what would it cost? And what would it cost you to stop? If you turned all of that energy inward, the energy you spent seeking, achieving, proving, performing, what might you discover? I don't know what you'll find, but I think it will surprise you. You have been so faithful to a version of yourself that was designed by other people's fears, other people's comfort, and other people's definitions of what's acceptable. That's not who you are. That's who you learned to be. The real work, the work that's harder than any career goal, any fitness milestone, any external achievement, is the work of getting to know yourself genuinely, curiously, without judgment. It doesn't happen in one moment. It doesn't happen through one meditation or in one journal entry or in one podcast episode. It happens in the accumulation of small, honest moments where you choose to look inward instead of outward, where you choose your own voice over the noise, where you choose to ask the questions that most people are too afraid to ask. What do you actually believe about yourself, about your worth, about what you deserve? Not what you were told, not what you performed, not what you built your life around before you were old enough to choose. The question is yours now. Take your time with it. This is 1-800-GOAL-DIGGER, and I will talk to you in the next episode.